Good afternoon and welcome to Wild Moments powered by Explore.org. My name is James Hendry, and as you can see, joining us from Pretoria North, where apparently civilization has departed probably about 25 years ago, is the wonderful Jamie Patterson. Hello, Jamie.
Hi, everybody.
Please do talk to us during the course of the next half an hour. We'd love to have your questions and comments as we go through some of the highlights from the Africam cameras dotted about Southern Africa. We have 4 clips to show you, none of which we've seen before. We are sort of aware of what's going to be in them, but we haven't seen them before, so we'll be enjoying them together. Hello, Andy. You say, good day, James and Jamie. Congratulations, Jamie, on 2 years of university completed. It's 2.5 now, isn't it?
It's two and a half, rapidly approaching 3. The big end of year exams are looming. But thank you, Andy.
Andy,
almost
just in
half
case
of it.
You're almost halfway there. Oh, jeepers, that makes me tired just thinking about it. Andy, in case you're unaware, our academic year, school and university, runs January to December in most of the Southern Hemisphere. And that's just because our summer is in December. Hello, Geert NL. Geert NL, I'm assuming you're in the Netherlands. Good day to you, waiting from the Netherlands. Yes, you are. Tammy, hello, James and Jamie. Stephanie, good morning from Virginia, USA. Hello all, Suki V in the UK. Tris Vsop, hello, James and Jamie from Poland. Mary Momo, hi all from Hot Springs, Arkansas. Excited from our favorite show. Mary Momo, I'm very glad this is your favorite show. We are most honored that you have chosen this over Grey's Anatomy or EastEnders, as is the case with my mother, as your favorite show. Hello, Zygote. It always amuses me. Yes, hello, Zygote. Just 2 cells. Right. Okay, that's all the greetings out of the way. I think we'll move swiftly along to our very first clip. Now, what we have here is a spring hare, and this is a world premiere for Africam. It is at the Olifants River camera. And I mean, I have seen spring hares just north of where this spring hare is. I've seen one spring hare just north of where the spring hare is. And I think that, if I'm not mistaken, this would be the sort of southeastern limit of their range. You do find them in this area, but not very commonly, and they're normally much more common in the drier regions. And something that is easily observable with this infrared light is that this spring hare, sadly, has only one eye. I'm not sure what trauma managed to remove that spring hare's little eye, but there it is. It's gone. So the spring hare, for those of you who do not know, is not in fact a hare. It is not a lagomorph. It does not belong to the rabbit family. It is in fact a rodent. So it belongs to the order Rodentia. And I mean, actually I had to look it up earlier on because I'd forgotten quite a lot of what I've learned about spring hares because I've seen so few of them. Have you seen many of them?
I spent some time up towards All Days area, which is right up in the north.
I'm sorry about that.
So they were ubiquitous there. I never really actually knew much about them, just that they were fascinating. We only ever saw them at night, and they were fascinating to look at. Very cute.
For me, I mean, there are lots of little interesting facts and tidbits about them, but for me, the most interesting thing from a general biological perspective is that they are a really nice example of convergent evolution. They use that hopping sort of mode of locomotion, much the same as many of the Australian animals do, the marsupials there. They're not closely related to marsupials. They're very... I mean, they couldn't, it would be difficult for them to be further related to any other mammal. But they have adopted the same strategy for locomotion. And apparently that particular style of locomotion is energetically very efficient. And the reason everything hops in Australia is that it is largely a desert continent. It is nutrient poor for the most part, and that hopping allows the natural elasticity of the muscles to be fully used. So when you walk, generally you don't bounce, you just walk, and your muscles contract, and then what's the opposite of contract, Jamie? Quickly, vet. Release.
Extend.
Release.
Yes.
You know what
stretch.
I mean. Anyway, the muscles
I know.
contract and release, and there's quite a lot of energy loss when that happens. Whereas if you use them like a spring, and so when they contract and you use the release, and they release quickly, you can use that energy to move forward again. Sprinters use it very effectively. They train that reflex in their bodies when they learn to sprint very fast. And the marsupials, the hopping marsupials, not all marsupials, obviously koalas don't, they have another strategy for dealing with nutrient poor environments. But the hopping marsupials use that natural elasticity along with a specialized design of the bones to move very efficiently. And I just think that's very
I think one of my professors wrote a paper on this, on the comparison of the spring hares. A physiologist, yeah.
What's his name?
Comparison of the Ned Snelling. He's Australian. Yeah.
Okay. That's very interesting. I'd like to read that if you can find it at some
There's
stage.
There's something that the spring hare is better at than kangaroos, but I don't remember what it is. Yeah, we didn't write an exam about it, so I didn't learn it.
Yes, no, quite. Linda Poley, you say you've never heard of them. Yeah, well, I'm not surprised. I know that you are an avid watcher of virtual safaris and dam cameras, etc. And I mean, I know where you watch these cameras, and there aren't a lot of spring hares where you watch them. So, yeah, it's not surprising you haven't seen them. But like Jamie says, in regrettable locations like Aldays and much less regrettable ones further north and west of that, you'll find lots and lots of spring hares. Zygote says we've seen them in the Masai Mara.
I thought we had two.
You know what?
Sorry, the dogs are barking.
There's an East African spring hare, which I think is a different species. And that's really interesting because obviously that's the spring hare that we get here doesn't occur in areas where there's that much rain. I mean, the Maras gets a lot of rain, and they don't occur here where we get that much rain. Do they? I'm not wrong about that. No, I'm not, because I've looked at their distribution.
No, you're not wrong about that. It's an arid, arid species.
Okay. Sorry, I was just looking out the window because the neighbors were peering into it. That's what happens out here, of course.
Lovely. Yeah.
Pete, who are spring hares' predators? Anything really. Owls, big owls would take them. Leopards, any carnivores. Civets, I guess. Maybe a brave genet. I would say, Pete. Yeah, I think that's probably it. Hello, Alison from Liverpool. Hello, Lisa White. Good day to you from Washington State, the Evergreen State. Hello, MMM. Glad to be here from Pennsylvania. Nice to have you all with us. Thank you very much. The other interesting thing, I mean, would you like to share anything particularly interesting about spring hares before I completely monopolize this show, Jamie?
No, please, you carry on. I just remember something about they discovered inflorescence or something.
That's right.
On their
they are bioluminescent.
Yes. I think I did an article on it, yes. Which is fascinating.
You did it. They are bioluminescent. That doesn't mean they glow in the dark particularly brightly, but they do glow slightly in the dark. And apparently, I read this morning, they groom specific parts of their bodies, apparently to make them bioluminesce slightly more for signaling to whomever they are signaling. So that's very interesting. Yeah, that's probably the most interesting thing about them, actually, is that they are bioluminescent mammals. Sorry, the neighbors are now playing with their cat outside. It's all rather disturbing. Tompa, what purpose would the black tail tip serve? I'm going to throw that at Jamie.
I would get again, or maybe even some sort of flash coloration. If they hop and the focus is drawn to the tail and the tail goes through the air and then drops, it might just buy them enough time to escape a predator that's aiming in the wrong place where the tail was. That would be my guess. anyway.
They're not that fast, are they? I mean, you hear of these farmers catching them quite easily on foot. Yeah, they're
I've
not that
heard some
quick.
horror stories of people doing it
Yeah,
for fun and jumping off,
yeah,
jumping off buckies and
yeah,
several brandies in and chasing them. So they can't be
yeah.
that fast.
I don't think they are that fast. I think
I
they dig very quickly.
Yeah. I was wondering how long it must have taken him to, once he lost his eye, adapt to
Mm,
the depth perception needed. I mean,
yeah,
obviously we've seen one-eyed animals in a lot of
yeah,
contexts, but especially for a hopper, it must
yeah,
be. Mm,
yeah. Must be very difficult.
yeah.
Kathy, you say spring hares are cute, even if they are a rodent. Kathy, there are lots of cute rodents: squirrels, hamsters, bushveld gerbils, giant tree rats. No, they're not cute at all. But there are lots of cute rodents. Porcupines might even be considered cute.
They're very cute. And there's someone in the United States, I think, who's taught rats to drive cars. I mean, not big cars, little rat-sized
Small
cars,
cars.
and they've been taught to steer and everything. I mean,
Okay.
and
So
some of
they're
them are
intelligent.
better at it than others. Yeah,
Yes. Like humans, some are better than others.
indeed.
Mm.
None of the
Good.
good
Thank you,
ones are in
Kathy.
Gauteng.
Yes. Hi, Sarah in Kazakhstan. Enjoying the show with a glass of wine. Miss SA, but so much, but contracts pay well. Were they better if you're in Kazakhstan, Sarah? I cannot imagine that there would be too much other reason to be knocking about in Kazakhstan unless you were a researcher of some description. I'm sure there are some attractive areas, but it's very foreign, I imagine, for someone from South Africa. And that's all the comments for now. I think the only other thing I quickly want to say about the spring hare before we move on is that they are apparently able to breed 3 times a year, which I think is remarkable.
It is
And
remarkable.
the oldest spring hare on record was 7 years old. I will now forget all of this information because that's the end of the spring hare video. Let us move on. Now here we are at Camphus Dam, and this is not a ballet being performed by the flamingos, and that is not a snake. It is, in fact, a Cape clawless otter. That is another world premiere. Well, at Camphus Dam, anyway. This is just near Kimberley. And you can see that the Cape clawless otter is causing a lot of trouble and great disturbance to the poor birds, which will now probably be almost crash landing as they come back down. Now, it's a very cool little animal, that. An otter is a carnivore, and it'll be they're not normally known for eating fully grown flamingos, I wouldn't have thought, but I'm sure they would take whatever bit of meat they can catch. So, I mean, what do they normally eat, Jamie? You wrote an article on this last year as well.
Yes. Fish and
Fish largely,
crustaceans.
yeah.
Mm.
But I'm
And
sure
yeah,
they'd
the
take
odd
reptiles
nest.
and yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'd take amphibians. I think they'd probably take nestling birds. And I mean, if a flamingo was dumb enough to get in the way, I'm pretty sure they'd
Mm.
take one of those too. I think,
Oh,
like
most
most meat
definitely.
eaters, they have a specialization, but they'll eat anything that's made of meat, pretty much.
Yeah.
Anyway, wonderful to see an otter. I don't think, Kirsten, that was it was a world premiere. I think she will write to me now from the next room. Yes, in red writing. I think I've asked her that before, obviously, and that's why it's in red. This is the Triple M says this is the only one I've ever seen, and with its one eye seems to jump in circles at times. Okay, right, that's not about the otter. That's obviously about the one-eyed spring hare. Triple M, you say it seems to jump in circles. I suspect it doesn't, because I think it would probably be killed quite swiftly
It would be
if
gone
it
by
did.
now, surely. Maybe
Yeah,
there was a
must true.
reason. It was.
Yes, I think it was probably circling on purpose. Maybe its movement have been changed. Anyway, that otter almost, to me, also seems to be slightly extralimital in that the area around Kimberley is very dry. But I suppose, I mean, the distribution does cover those areas, doesn't it? And if
Yeah.
there's water, then I suppose they'll be around. Yeah. So
It'll
that is
be
the.
interesting to see how if there's a bit of an expansion now with I think we're going to have another wet year, I'm just guessing.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of water around at the well, not right now,
Mm.
but in the last few years there's been a lot of water
Yeah.
around. Mm.
So hopefully they will expand, but they are delightful little animals. And
Oh,
I mean, one of my wife's very favorite animals. And I think they're probably quite intelligent, and I think they habituate quite nicely to people. And so you can get quite close to them and spend time with them, watching them in the wild, if you spend enough patient time with them. So it'd be interesting to see if they persist there. Um, Linda Poli, you say that's something else you've never heard of. Linda, it's an otter. They are around the United States. You get some beautiful ones in the United States. What's the one that was showcased on? It was one of the big BBC documentaries. No, it wasn't. It was that.
oh
Yeah, it was Big Blue Live or something. That thing in the
yes, it was
harbour.
Big Blue Live.
It's a sea
Yes,
otter. It's called a sea
yes, and they
otter,
were
isn't it?
all yes, it is a sea otter.
And they lie.
Fairly certain.
Yeah, they lie on their backs and sleep and play. Yeah. So Linda, those are in the United States, Monterey Bay. I think that's where that was shot. So yeah, you get otters in the US. Zygote otters are
There was
known to
one on a
kill.
documentary
Yeah.
recently. Sorry.
No, no.
There was one of the Monterey ones recently, and she'd taken her otter pup and had put it on underneath one of the jetties. There was a little ledge, and she found a sort of suitable place to leave her pup. Yeah.
Okay. They're
Anyway,
incredibly cute.
sorry.
Yeah. So
Nothing.
wonderful animals. Apparently incredibly smelly though. And if one happens to uh, be near one when it has voided its bowels, the smell is absolutely appalling because they are largely fish eaters. Zygote, you say otters are known to kill alligator and caiman in the Amazon. Thank you for that, Zygote. I had no idea. It doesn't surprise me because, yeah, I think they're very Catholic in their dietary needs and habits. John, you say aren't otters monogamous? I don't know. I've got no idea. Do you remember,
I
Jamie?
should know. I should know. I'm pretty sure it came into the article that I
Shall
wrote
I look
last
up your
year.
article?
Well, what if I didn't put it in there? I don't remember. There's been so many. Um,
I know.
maybe
I
some of
don't
them are.
remember them
I
being.
would
I
I
think,
would say
yeah, I don't know.
monogamous for a given value of monogamous, as are
Yeah,
most monogamous
yeah,
animals. I think. Yeah.
I would agree. Blah, blah, blah. There are 13 species of otter, by the way. That's according to Jamie Patterson. I'm just quoting her here. Yeah, I don't think. Oh, here we go. The African clawless otter, Jamie, apparently solitary but live with relatively tolerant family groups. Each individual occupies its range in a communal territory marked by anal gland secretions, urine, and dropping, referred to as spraints. The females usually have between 2 and 5 pups, and the male plays no parental role. So I actually don't think they are monogamous. I think that they probably, much like leopards or lions, will mate with whatever, the female will mate with whatever male happens to be dominant in the area at the time.
Cool.
Very
At
good.
least.
Very nice. Okay, let's move on to our next clip. Ah, oh,
Oh.
that's easy to describe. It's a leopard. Now what's interesting about this particular leopard is that it's at Tembe in northern Maputoland, KwaZulu-Natal, and it's the first leopard that's been seen here since November last year.
Sure.
So that's very cool. It looks like a fairly scrawny individual.
Oh.
I'm going to say young male.
I agree.
I would say. Bearing in mind, something's watching him.
Ooh.
And now he's watching it. Dun, dun, dun. Please excuse the noise coming from outside. There are a couple of chaps fixing the roof and shouting at each other. That's a bushbuck, I think. Yep. The leopard is now looking at the bushbuck, thinking, yum, yum. The bushbuck is suspicious that there's something wrong.
Well, I think we can confirm it's a young male.
Oh, well done. Yes, we can. Two little golden orbs under the tail. I'm assuming that this bushbuck suspects something's up, but it might not actually. It might just be ruminating gently as it looks towards where the camera is. Just for those of you who don't know, this is an infrared camera, which means that although we can see the infrared being cast upon these animals because the camera is so clever, the animals can't see. I mean, it's dark. They can't see. There's no artificial light helping them see each other.
I think that bushbuck's got a tingly feeling on the hairs on the back of his neck.
Yes, I think it probably does. Ooh, Gigi, you want to know how good a bushbuck's eyesight is? Very, is the answer. And much better at night than ours would be, but probably not quite as good as the leopards would be. Das bushbuck is living dangerously.
Well, he hasn't seen a leopard. Oh, there he goes.
So as soon
I
as
was
he
going to
saw
say
it,
he hasn't seen a leopard either
no,
since last November.
no. Yes, that's the first leopard he's seen since last November, so he was a bit confused. But as soon as it became apparent what was looking at him, and in fact that it was a leopard looking at him, he alarm called and ran away. So very nice. I don't know if those of you who watch the cameras regularly know which leopard that was, or if it was the same one seen last November. I would imagine he probably was quite a lot smaller this time, or in November last year, if it was the same one. I mean, are we saying it's a young male? It could be, it could be a 5-year-old, I suppose. It could be. And we're just misidentifying its age. So if it was 4 last year, it wouldn't be substantially different in size. But I'd say a young male. Would you agree?
I would agree. No, absolutely.
Okay.
And I think that would also make sense if he was moving through that area looking for a good spot. He hasn't been regularly, he might now be regularly seen, but that leopard dispersal, that very long one that was tracked about 10 years ago, that 300-kilometer plus leopard came from that side and went through in that direction, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. I mean, I'm very surprised that that's the first leopard you've seen on the camera there for a year. In fact, I'm slightly gobsmacked, and JK is saying, why are leopards not often seen at Tembe? And I think it's a good question because it's ideal leopard habitat. There's lots of prey, there's lots of cover, lots of thick bush, and I'm afraid the only reason I can think of. Oh, sorry, Lisa White. My last screen was of 2 leopards in January on Tembe. Well, screenshots of leopards on Tembe. Okay, so January, even though, I mean, I would have thought you'd be seeing them at least as often as we're seeing them in Olifants, at least in Baluli, on the river and, around those pans. I find it very odd that they are not seen more frequently. And I suspect, sadly, that the reason is that Tembe is small. And I suspect that the poaching outside of the reserve is fairly rampant. and that any leopard that so much as thinks about going outside is going to be caught, and maybe even some inside the reserve, sadly. That would be my guess. I think it's a very heavily populated area. And in fact, there are definitely, I don't know how strong the Shembe church is up there, but there are definitely other traditional practices associated with the people of KwaZulu Natal that do or often require the use of leopard skins. And sadly, I think that's probably why there are so few at Tembe, because otherwise it really is the most ideal leopard habitat. There is also some hunting, legal hunting, depending on your perspective, legal trophy hunting in that area. So perhaps that's why. Yeah. But very interesting that there are so few. Can you think of any other reason why there should be so few there?
Not really. I mean, the research that I did a little while ago, the densities of leopards in that area should be as high as in the
Yeah,
sands or,
yeah,
yeah, in southern Kruger. There shouldn't
yeah.
be so few. Yeah.
Especially as there are
That's the
fewer
only
hyenas.
explanation that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, no, I think that's very odd.
unfortunately.
Zygo, do you say because lions are always around Tembe? I mean, and you put a little lol at the end of that, but that's not a bad theory. I mean, there are lions
Yeah.
in Tembe. It's a fence reserved, and yeah, I mean that is an explanation for it. The lions are hanging out at that waterhole on a consistent basis. The leopards won't come there. Maybe that's
And they're
actually
not
all it
water
is. Maybe,
dependent.
yeah, they're
Yeah,
not water dependent.
that's also
So
true.
Zygote, I know that you're lolling about your comment there, but I don't think you're wrong. It could easily be that, and hopefully it's that, rather than my rather more morose and less cheerful theory. Okay, we've just got a few minutes left, so let's have our last clip. Oh, wonderful. This is our black eaglet, or Varro's eaglet, which is now a fledgling. I feel there should be some more music. Da, 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 da. That wasn't very inspiring music, but it was the best I could come up with at short notice. So our black eagle has fledged. There we go.
Aw.
And it doesn't seem to be doing a lot of flying upwards, but it's certainly doing some flying, and it seems to be returning to the nest, so it obviously can fly upwards. It fledged this last Sunday after 96 days since it emerged from its eggy. Isn't
It's
that wonderful?
special.
I think that's so special.
That
I think
is
that's
so
really
special.
wonderful. And if I'm not
Lovely.
mistaken, was it this egg, or was it? It may have been another one that I think it may have been some other footage I watched. This one did kill its brother or sister, and this was the first egg, if I'm not mistaken. And that's right. Yes, Kirsten just confirming it. And I actually did watch a little bit of footage from another nest, quite a long way from here, where what happened again? Oh yes, the first chick died before the second chick hatched, and so the second chick survived and fledged. So it does happen. The insurance policy is a valid one to have for these Burroughs eagles. So that's wonderful. The average sort of time for them to fledge is between 95 and 100 days. So 96 is bang on target. No developmental issues for that young eagle. I think its next challenge, however, is going to be to find another place to live. The area around that is where it was born is surrounded by Johannesburg or Western Johannesburg, and I mean Johannesburg's bad enough, but Western Johannesburg, I don't spend too much time around there. I'm just being facetious. And so it's going to have to disperse quite far. It's going to have to go quite a long way. And Jamie, I mean, I guess the Magaliesberg would be the closest
I'm just thinking that. I mean,
habitat.
we've got a little bit of the Michalisberg where I am, and there's some
Yeah,
places where might actually, I don't know what it would
yeah,
eat, but
yeah,
maybe that would be the best spot.
yeah.
Maybe up towards
I think,
Hartbeespoort or something.
yeah. I mean, they
Mm.
are territorial, so it's going to have to find an empty area to live.
How soon will that have to happen? I've just realized I actually don't know. But
I think it's
those bateliers on Batelier Road that we used to see once upon a time many years ago, they kept their juvenile around
yeah,
for a
yeah.
while. So
I don't think these
perhaps.
guys hang around for more than a few months. I
Hmm.
think they go off after about 3 months, if I'm not mistaken. Judy H says he can fly, and she is of course quoting me when I saw a spotted eagle owl fly just before Christmas a couple of years ago. Thank you for reminding me of that, Judy H. It's a
Oh,
very pleasant memory. All right, on that very pleasant memory, we're going to say goodbye to you. Thank you all for joining us. We will see you this time next week. Jamie, are you joining us this time next week? You don't
maybe.
know.
Stay
Right,
tuned, find
maybe.
out.
I will be here this time next week. There may be a surprise where Jamie's sitting. It may just be Jamie, and that will be surprise enough. Until then, bye bye.